Jerry, welcome to Philly. How are you?
It's great to be here. Always great to be in Philly.
So talk about the move to the CW. What do you think?
I am really, really excited. It's like gives me a new life again. So I love it, and it's the variety of shows that you have on the CW. It's kind of neat. I mean, I feel like no one's going to raise their eyebrows and say, "Well, why are you on ours?" You know.
Well, why would they do such a thing? What do you mean by that?
Well, because my show's stupid. That's why. But it's 27 years stupid. So
sure.
It's so much fun to do, and obviously it has a fan base, and so I've really enjoyed doing it. I've been very lucky, and now to know that I could be on for years and years. So this is great. In fact, when I die, what I'd like to do is on my grave site, I'd like to have bleachers around 3 sides of it.
Yeah.
And then a big screen over the tombstone where 24/7 they play episodes. Because we have close to 5,000 episodes. And you could put the CW logo there.
I like that.
And people, you know how kids, well, when I was younger, you'd go to the cemeteries on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And
just like hang out.
Yeah, hang out in the cemetery.
In the dark.
Yeah, in the dark. And so you could sit in the bleachers and just have some peace, and then you watch the show. And then on the tombstone, it'll just say, "I won't be right back."
The best of both worlds, this world and the other one. You've been doing this a long time, 30 years.
Yeah.
In that 30 years, or almost 30 years, how much has TV changed?
Well, actually, the industry has changed more than the programming. In other words, how it's economically funded, networks, they're always changing ownership and stuff like that. So if you read the trades, there's a lot of change. But what we've probably seen is what I would call the democratization of television. Television used to be, or all entertainment used to be, you'd have people performing on stage in front of a camera, and the audience just sits there and watch. What has changed in the last 30 years, whether it's television, radio, social media, is that all of a sudden the audience has become part of the entertainment. So you started with radio talk shows where people would be entertained because you'd listen to the callers.
Sure.
And then you had Phil Donahue, and it was the audience that became part of the show. And now you have reality television where the viewers vote people on or off the show, or whether it's American Idol or America's Got Talent. The audience become the performers, and they decide who's on and who's off. So it's very democratic now. It's not just a few people in Hollywood.
And you sort of came up in that group with Phil Donahue and Ricky Lake and that whole group.
I have a show because he was retiring. It's the same company.
Yeah.
So they took me to lunch one day and said, "Phil's retiring. We're going to start a new talk show and you're the host." So I was assigned to it as an employee. I had no idea that it would be this.
So you come from a politics background.
Yeah.
You were a news anchor.
Yeah.
Do you miss that at all?
Yeah, I'm still active in politics. I don't run for office, but I travel the country giving speeches and raising money. So I'm very active in politics. In terms of doing the news, I loved it for 10 years. Yeah, it was great. And what I would do, and here's something you might want to try, I would make up the news. Because, sometimes it's raining.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have to go outside and cover, you got to drive 20 minutes to the neighborhood. So I would just,
I'll have you know, that's my forte here at CBS 3, Jerry. Yeah, that's what I do. About 4,000 episodes you've done, a little over 4,000. How would you sum up your time as host of the Jerry Springer Show?
With an apology. I'm so sorry. I've ruined the culture. I didn't mean to do it. Don't hold it against me. Just remember my final thought, because that's my hope in terms of getting into heaven, is when my judgment day comes, God will say, "What about that show?" And I'll say, "But remember the final thought,
Did you ever think that mayhem would last this long?
No, my contract was for 6 weeks because I was anchoring the news. It was only a side job.
Right.
So for the first 2 years, I was doing, I would get up in the morning in Cincinnati, fly to Chicago, tape the show, and in the afternoon fly back to Cincinnati and do the news. And I did that for 2 years, and that got to be exhausting. So
Wow.
I'd done the news for 10 years, so I gave up the news and devoted full time to the show.
When people stop to talk to you on the street, how's the conversation usually start?
Well, first it's repetition of my name. Jerry, Jerry.
Does that ever get old?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you where it got old. It happens all the time.
Sure.
And one place, of course, is when you walk through an airport. You know, I'm on gate 57. So as you're walking down there, every gate, they'll suddenly see you and they start going, Jerry, Jerry. Well, they're just doing it for like 10 seconds.
Sure.
But I've got to go through to gate 57. So each gate I pass, it continues. So for me, it's 10 minutes of nonstop. But the worst place it ever happened, I was at a ball game, I think a football game, the Bengals, and you know, you go to the into the restroom, and
yeah.
you know, the restrooms in these at ballparks, or in the stadiums, you know, they're like 50 yards long,
yep.
and they got the urinal to go
100
forever.
stalls, yeah.
So there are 500 guys in there, and I get spotted. And now all of a sudden, I got to go, and they're chanting, Jerry, Jerry, when I'm trying to go in the urinal.
Did that make it easier or harder?
No, at my age, it's tough enough to go,
right.
and now they're chanting, and you want to say, stop it.
That's great.
And then when you're done, they cheer. That was the worst place.
What's your family think of the show?
I don't tell them I do the show.
They don't know?
No, my wife thinks I sell insurance.
That's a good cover.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
Worked after all these years.
I don't tell her I'm Jersey. I tell her I'm Maury Povich.
Maury Povich actually used to work here.
Yeah, I know. I saw the picture.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah. Do you have a favorite episode or favorite interview you've ever done? Anything ever stand out to you? There's a lot of episodes to go through.
Yeah, it's all crazy. So, well, you know, I always say the guy who married his horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great episode. Actually, the funniest story of that guy marrying the horse was not what happened on stage, but because I think they probably cut it. I'm not allowed to know what the show's about. So when I come in, you see me carrying a card, but all the card has in it are the names of the guests. And I'm never allowed to know the story.
Okay.
So then that's why the first question in every segment is, so what's going on? I introduce the guests, I have the name. So Bob, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And then they tell me the story, and then I make jokes or whatever, quips. Well, so let's say, I forget what the guy's name was. Let's say it was Bob, and he was the guy who married his horse. But I don't know, that's the story. So Bob is there, sitting on the stage, and I say, Bob, what's going on? He says, well, I'm having trouble with the neighbors. Why? Well, they don't seem to like my wife. What's wrong with your wife? I don't know, she's quiet, she keeps to herself. Well, this is boring, it's going nowhere.
Right.
So I said, all right, let's bring out your wife, and the next name is Pixel. So here's Pixel. And out comes this horse. Now, I'm thinking, oh my God, poor Pixel has fallen off the horse because the horse came out alone.
Gotcha.
So I'm going, oh no, stop the cameras, is she okay? And then the executive producer is yelling to me, no, that's Pixel. And the audience went crazy.
I would assume so.
But we did a follow-up show on it because the horse left him. Pixel
I was going to
left.
say, did it last?
No, it didn't. Pixel left.
That's sad. She said nay. I've been working on that one. What do you think about Philadelphia?
I tell the jokes?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Cut. What do you think about Philly?
It's a great city, great history. I mean, I've only lived in big cities in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in London, raised in New York, and Chicago, Cincinnati, whatever. So I've lived in big cities, and Philly is one of the great big cities. I was here 2 years ago for the Democratic Convention, which was all exciting and everything. But it's a great city, great sports town.
Excellent. We don't like the Giants or the Yankees, though. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Enjoy this year.
One last thing for you.
Yes.
Can you give me a final thought on this interview?
Yes. Of all the interviews I've ever done, and I'm serious, this is one of them.
I will take that. Jerry Springer, thank you so much.
Bye.